I'm a big believer that marketing is 90% of this business.
Hmm.
Marketing for deals, obviously marketing for private money. The other 10% is important, but if you're not marketing for deals, you really kind of don't have a business.
Hey guys and gals, this is Trevor with InvestorCarrot coming at you with another CarrotCast, and I'm really excited about this one because Michael and I we had our first chance to chat, actually not chat, meet in person a few months back, and it was really cool. And you know how when you get a chance to meet someone that you have talked to and kind of one of your internet friends and buddies that it's just really cool being able to make that connection in person. So first of all, I just want to say thanks for coming down and connecting with us, and also it's just amazing to finally meet you and put the handshake to the person. So that's cool.
Yeah, yeah, it was great. Thanks for having me on the interview. It was we've been doing business together for I've been a Carrot customer for I think well over a year and been using a lot of sites and then finally get a chance to meet. I think it was January. It was great. I felt like I've known you for so well for so long, but we hadn't actually met until a couple of months ago. So it was a great opportunity to do that.
Man, dude, I was the same way. So it was a blast. I'm glad we had a chance to do it. And so today on the CarrotCast, so those of you who have been listening to our first several episodes in the CarrotCast, this is something new here with Investor Carrot, and we're having some fun with it. And we're kind of working on the format here, but the whole aim is really to bring on amazing investors who are doing great in whatever it is that they do as an investor. We had an investor on a previous CarrotCast where they do a lot of tax liens. We had investors on yesterday. They do a lot of virtual wholesaling, and just in one, in one state, but in different cities. And Michael's got his own really unique twist that he's found some things that are working really, really well for him. And we're going to walk you guys through three specific tips that are working very, very well for him in his business, just like we do with the other CarrotCasts. We always focus on between 1 and 3 tips that you can take and implement in your business and life right away, go get results, and then come back to another CarrotCast to get an amazing tip from another amazing investor. So first of all, before we dive in, Mike, why don't you quickly introduce yourself, man? Tell people where you live, what your business is, and we're going to dive into some of these tips.
Sure. My name is Michael Borger. I have a company called Oahu Home Buyers, which buys houses, buy fix and sell houses in the Aloha state of Hawaii, mainly on Oahu. But I live in San Diego, California. So I am doing remote rehabbing. And wasn't always the case. I was living in Hawaii for a full 8 years. But a year and a half ago, I moved to San Diego, but have my team in place there in Hawaii. And I'm doing deals there and exploring other markets as well from here in San Diego.
I love it. So yeah, when you connected with us, you were in Hawaii at that time, and then you moved to San Diego just recently, and then you had your first child, had a little baby girl, and
Yes.
I know this has nothing to do with real estate at all, but myself, I've got 3 little kids, and yesterday it's funny. I was going to be on the phone with Brad Chandler for a call, and I'm like, dude, I'm totally cool if you bump it back because it'll give me some extra time to have lunch with McKinley, my oldest daughter. We were out at lunch at the time, and he understood it too. So, what have you found just in this past year or so that you've been a dad and an entrepreneur and of course a husband? Kind of what's your flow, man? Like what's your new flow now that you have a child?
Uh, Boy, you're assuming that there is a flow.
there there is, and you'll never get like when you think you've got it, then you have another kid, or when you think you've got it, they hit a new age. But what do you feel have been the biggest differences for you, other than the obvious? You have an amazing child, and you have that connection that you'll never have with another human being. But in your business, has anything changed? Have you had to changing the ways that you work? Has your mission and purpose behind what you do changed at all?
Well, yeah, I mean, the mission and purpose, obviously, I want to not just leave something for my daughter. I'm not necessarily designing the business for my daughter to take over someday, but to be able to be the best investor I can, to be able to provide the best lifestyle for my daughter. And I think that's, probably across the board for many people. The better our business does, the better we can provide for our spouses, children, and whatnot. So obviously that has gone to that level since being married and then now being a dad. As far as it relates more towards what you say flow, the daily operations, man, it has really taught me to budget my time and to spend my time on high performance tasks. Back to Michael Gerber's E-Myth, don't be the technician, man. I'm not sitting here stuffing envelopes. It's trying to raise money and implement new marketing to get more deals, because I do not have the same hours in the day that I had before. Not if I want to get some sleep in there.
Totally. So you mentioned the marketing side, which we're going to dive into. That's that's the first tip we're going to dive into. But before we do, kind of set the stage for your business. You mentioned that you guys are doing your primary deals in Hawaii, in Oahu. Are you guys in another part of Hawaii, or just Oahu?
I do market for deals elsewhere. I have one of the top ranking websites in the Anchorage, Alaska market, which happens to be one of my Carrot sites. So I actually am doing a first deal up there. It's just a wholesale deal, but it's a 5-figure check, and it didn't require me flying to Alaska. So
that's awesome.
This is great, and I'm starting to get some deals in other markets in the Midwest, and even here in San Diego, I get bites, and I just haven't really pushed the envelope in some of these markets that hard, because Hawaii is still my bread and butter. Mm-hmm. But I am slowly I'm watching my sites get up the rankings in other markets, and that is part of the plan for the next year or two, is to really keep Hawaii going, but to kind of be one of the big dogs in some other metro areas as well.
And I know I was doing a CarrotCast with a couple young brothers out of California. You had a chance to meet when we were in San Diego, Josh and Adam, and they're they're virtual wholesaling, so they're living in a city, and most of their investing is in a different city, but all in California. And they were mentioning that when they were choosing their business strategy, they were, of course, they were trying to move away from their day jobs, which they're full-time investors now and have been for the past year and a half. But one of their criteria is they were picking markets that were going to give them enough deal flow where it was consistent. They said the thing that they did not want was do a deal every 6 months that netted them 150 grand or something like that. They wanted to do deals every month that were churning. I know, obviously, it's one of our goals all the time to have that consistency and doing more of the good things. But your strategy is not really the opposite, but it's a little bit the other end of the spectrum, where the nature of the market that you are in, Hawaii, as far as, once again, I want to reiterate with people, you don't live there right now. You live in San Diego.
Right.
But you're doing your deals in Hawaii. Kind of what's your thought process there? Because you mentioned before we hopped on the call, your margins are way bigger. You're not netting 10 grand a deal. You're netting a lot more, but they don't come. You're not doing 3 a month over there.
No, I think I'm in 5 or 6 deals at the moment in Hawaii. I've got new luxury construction going on over there in a city called Kaneohe. I bought a property last week over in the Big Island in the Hilo area. I've got something I'm looking at over in Maui. So my Hawaii business is doing well, and it does grow, but it's not one of these. I mean, I bought properties before for $1 million. That's buying them for $1 million, and you renovate and resell, right? Or close to $1 million. Yeah. So when you're talking about those price points, it's not really where you're doing 30 deals like some people might do in markets like Oklahoma and Nebraska or what have you, when you can do a lot more. And so the deal flow does look a little bit different. But interestingly, though, it takes the same amount of time to renovate a 1,500 square foot house, whether you bought it for 700 grand or 70 grand.
Yep.
So being in the Hawaii market does allow me to use the same resources as far as time and manpower, but different from capital. And so that's why I'm looking to open up other markets, is to let Hawaii do what Hawaii does best, to kind of put it that way. But you try and open up some other markets to fill in some of the gap and kind of have more of the steady deal flow that you were mentioning.
I like that, man. It's kind of like the analogy that we've all heard, where if you're going to fill a bucket with rocks, you take the big rocks in, stack those first, then you fill in with the small rocks. And it's almost like that's your strategy. Let's go after something that has high margins, maybe not as many of them, but we're going to have those bigger wins. We're going to fill in with the smaller rocks as we go to add that consistency. So
right, but that doesn't mean doing risky things in Hawaii too. It still means investing safely, but the numbers are just bigger.
Exactly. I like it. So guys and gals, as you're picking your markets, which we're going to talk about some of it here in a little bit, Yeah, just really look for your strategy. And like I said, the last Carrot call, the last Carrot cast was one strategy. This is a different take to it. The beauty is you guys can have any take you want on the real estate investing business. Just pick the one that's right for you and implement it, which we're going to dive into. That's going to be tip number 2 on speed of implementation. So the first tip, man, you mentioned on the marketing side of things and how a lot of investors don't market enough. And you have a tip that I thought was very, very crazy simple, but I can attest that it's insanely important and effective. So what's your tip on the marketing side of things?
Yeah, I'm a big believer that marketing is 90% of this business. Mm-hmm. Marketing for deals, obviously marketing for private money. The other 10% is important, but if you're not marketing for deals, you really kind of don't have a business. Mm-hmm. So I'm a firm believer that marketing, 90% of this business, which means that's where the majority of your energy needs to go. So the tip that we were talking about is whatever marketing you're doing right now, scale that up 5 to 10 times as much. So if you're sending 200 letters out a month to, say, pre-foreclosures or probate leads, make that 1,000. Mm-hmm. If your budget's tight, bite the bullet, try and make it happen. Go get some ramen noodles, just try it for a month. If you do this, you won't be eating ramen noodles, at least not top ramen. My wife is Japanese, so when we have ramen, it's got to be good ramen. But the college go 29-cent top ramen. Do this for a month, and you won't be eating that for very long. Yeah. If you're sending 200 letters a month, make it 1,000. Just commit, I'm going to do this, and you'd be surprised because it doesn't grow your business linearly. It grows it exponentially.
So
right?
What you're mentioning, too, is I'll see a lot of entrepreneurs, not just real estate investors, but who like to dabble. I'm going to dabble in some marketing here. I'm going to dabble in that. And I know with me, whenever I have dabbled in marketing, that's when I lose the money. I think I'm saving money, like you mentioned. I'm going to just send out 200 letters. I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to do $5 a day in pay-per-click or whatever the heck that marketing is. Whenever I've done that is when I've lost money. It's when I don't dabble and I commit and I carve out a real budget and I create a real plan for how I'm going to succeed and I have real numbers. I'm a lot more serious about making sure that is a really good campaign I'm rolling out because I'm spending real money on it and I get better results.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned the commit. And that's what it is. You have to commit to doing this. You have to own this. You have to say, I'm all in this month, direct mailing to pre-foreclosures. I'm going to get short sales and I'll have to put those through my short sale pipeline. But I'm going to get some people that are facing foreclosure, but they have equity, and those are super gold leads. And I'm going to commit, and for the next 2 months, I'm going to do 2,000 letters a month, which is way more than I'm used to. But I'm going to own this. This is going to be the energy. I'm going to own this energy of my business for the next 2 months, and it's going to be awesome. And then you're going to automate that. And then you're going to own something else, which is awesome. Yep. And you're going to incorporate that, and you're going to automate that. And that's what I mean, like your business will grow exponentially. Not just adding more letters each month. You're going to add different channels.
Dude, it seems like that's what you were doing with the online side too. I remember when we initially connected, you weren't dabbling, man. I could tell you were not dabbling. You were diving in. You were getting stuff done. And then when you moved over to San Diego, you went just like hog wild. You started going, I'm committing to this strategy, a long-term strategy. I'm going to make it happen. And of course, you got that first deal in Anchorage now, and it's just going to keep on stacking up, which is awesome. So the next tip that you mentioned before really dovetails off of the really committing to your marketing, 5xing or 10xing your current marketing spend and what you're doing, and implementation and speed of implementation. And that's insanely huge. I'll find myself getting bogged down in speed of implementation sometimes. Whenever we do implement fast, things go better. What's your advice there, and what experience have you had when you are growing your business or when you're coaching other investors, because you are a coach at Fortune Builders? What's your experience there, speed of implementation?
Well, let's talk about an example. Let's say you have a new Carrot customer, mm-hmm. and they create a motivated seller website. One of the tips that you and your crew always give is to the website itself is awesome. I mean, the template's awesome, but you want to make it your own, right? You want to personalize it a little bit. And what I would say is instead of doing that a little bit with a half hour here and there, I would say take one day, just knock it out. Just say, today I have one task, and that is to make my site the best I can. I'm going to personalize it, localize it. I'm going to queue up some of the content packs if they have access to those, and just do that. Get it out of the way, because then it really starts working for you Why are you doing other stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of dabbling a little bit here, today I'm going to work on the about page. Today I'm going to put in a photo of my family or whatever. Just, people talk about time blocking or chunking, whatever you want to call it. Just do it so you don't have to think about it again. Then it's going to work for you while you're raising money or queuing up bandit sign routes or whatever it is. So this goes back to committing to the process.
Yeah.
Get it done. Get it done. If you're going to send out 2,000 letters a month, get it done right now.
Yep.
Get all 2,000 leads, send them to a mail house, tell them to do 500 leads a week, and have them break it apart and just wait for the phone to ring. Mm-hmm. Don't, every week you got to do 200 letters or 500 letters and get it to the mail house. Yeah. Commit to systematizing it now. Get it off your plate.
It's huge. So the speed of implementation side, just from on the Carrot side of things, of course, we talk with a lot of people. And really for people listening to this or watching this, one of the main differentiators between the people who are crushing it online, whether it's Carrot or whatnot, and not, it is really the speed of implementation. It's and I didn't make this up, but I use it a lot. It's being okay with okay and not striving for perfection. Because the cool thing is, you can always launch something and personalize it, but don't perfect it. Get it up, like you mentioned, spend an hour on it, do whatever, and then say, in 3 weeks, I'll do some more. Or when I get a logo, I'll throw a logo up there. You know what? I'll tackle my about page next month or something like that, but I'm not going to have that stop me from attaching the darn domain and starting to do Craigslist marketing or starting my SEO or starting pay-per-click or starting whatever it is that they're starting.
Yeah.
So yeah, guys, listen to this and implement fast. Fast implementation is one of the biggest differences in scaling a business. And I'm not just talking about a real estate business. I'm talking about some of the biggest businesses in the world. Why do they go out there and get funding? Why are you going out there and raising $1 million or $5 million or the company that we use for our project management software, Asana, they put a blog post up that they just raised $50 million, and they're already making money. They're already making money. So people ask, well, why are you raising $50 million when you guys are already making in the 7 figures in income? It's because they need the money to implement faster. They need the money to implement faster before their competition leapfrogs them with the speed of implementation.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're not implementing quickly, someone else is. Someone's else going to be right on your butt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So leads us into number 3, and we were talking about desperation a little bit on a previous CarrotCast with Daniel out of Baltimore, and he had some really good advice on it. But what's your advice on? You mentioned to me before, don't do desperate deals, and what's that mean to you? How do you know when a deal is a desperate deal? How do you find yourself making sure that you don't do deals that are desperate? Like, is there a line that you draw that's this is desperate, this is close to desperate, but not quite, this is not desperate? Like, is there a line, or is it more of a gut feeling?
Kind of. By the way, Daniel in Baltimore is an awesome guy.
Mm-hmm. He is.
Yeah. It was cool to see him in January as well. So I guess we have similar minds there. I have an expression where I don't want to get into any deal where I'm biting my fingernails. Mm-hmm. Like, if I'm not excited about the deal, then I don't really want to be doing it. I don't want to get into a deal where, I hope I make my ARV. I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. If you ever question yourself about that, it's okay. Revisit your numbers. Verify that your contractor quotes are correct. Have someone else look at your comps if you want to. I've made mistakes before on running comps, and I'll have someone else look at it and say, "Do you see this comp?" And that'll change my number here and there. But generally speaking, if your numbers are correct and you're still not excited about it, then don't do it. And this is usually more of a concern for newer investors who haven't done a deal or have done just maybe 1 or 2 deals, and they really want to get that next paycheck through the door, and they want to force that square peg into a round hole. Mm-hmm. And they put themselves in a position where everything needs to happen perfectly to kind of get even like a minimally acceptable check, just so they can say, I've done a deal. And rarely does a deal ever happen perfectly.
And if it doesn't, then that's like almost grounds for getting discouraged, right? Like if you do that and then you lose money on it, or you're like, oh my gosh, I'm discouraged on the process. So it's almost like sticking to your guns with that and not going after desperate deals. Also, make sure that you're not setting yourself up for that mental failure. So, for going, oh my gosh, now I've got to make up for the ground here because I ended up losing money on this because things did not happen perfectly.
Absolutely. It could be terrible down the road. And in the beginning, As a coach, I tell some people this, but just other people I talk to in the community, when I told them, hey, you should probably walk away from that deal, they feel a disappointment because maybe it's their first deal and then they have to go back to the beginning with marketing. But in some sense, too, when you walk away from a deal, there ought to be a little bit of pride there, because you should feel some pride in the fact that you made the smart investor decision.
Yep.
Right? You had your good investor brain, not your emotional brain, your investor brain, and you did exactly what a person who had done 100 deals would do, and you made the same decision. So that ought to reinforce the fact that you're doing something right, that you're learning something.
Yeah.
In the heat of the moment, when you have to cancel out of a deal, that's not really what people think of sometimes. And we've all been new, we all get it. But the more experience you have, the more you become okay with not continuing on a property. So it just takes time to get there.
So one last kind of clarification on that, and then I've got a couple other questions we're going to bounce and let you on your way. But do you have certain guidelines, do you have written guidelines where you say we're only going to buy, deals that are at least X discount from ARV, or we're in Hawaii, we are not going to do a deal unless we know we can net at least X amount in profit? Are you that granular in it, or are you kind of more gut feeling?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both. I generally like to, if you want to my specific formula, I don't do the 70% MAO formula, the maximum level offer formula, because the Hawaii market is just it's such an expensive market that those, I guess, traditional formulas don't always apply, and that they might give you too much of a cushion where you might actually be walking away from something that would be a good deal just because your rule of thumb formula might tell you not to do it. What I like to do is work backwards from the ARV. So I really kind of like to get 12 to 15% return on the ARV. So if the ARV of a property is $500,000, which you can find properties, I mean, the median single family home price on Oahu is over $700,000 right now.
It's insane.
Which is crazy.
It is.
But if the ARV on a lesser home is $500,000, I want to make $60,000 to $75,000 net at the end of the day for committing 6 months of resources for doing that project. So that's kind of my rule of thumb mathematically, I guess.
I like it. So a couple more questions. I did not warn you on these ones, but I'm always curious because it's simple, man. One of our core values is always constant, never-ending incremental improvement. And it's funny, I did the same thing yesterday. I know our core values by heart, but I keep on finding myself looking at the darn poster on the wall whenever I have to recite them. But anyway, so it's constant, never-ending incremental improvement. And I know high-achieving investors like you are very similar. You guys are always trying to improve, trying to get better, trying to get more centered and things like that. What are you reading now, or what have you read recently that has made a big impact on you? And also, who are you following right now? Is there someone specifically that, whether it's a CEO or a leader or just anyone that you're kind of following and liking what they're doing?
Yeah. Okay, well, I happen to have a book right next to my laptop, and you did not ask me this, so it just happens to be right next to my laptop here.
That's funny.
This is similar to Michael Gerber's E-Myth, which is one of my favorite books, but here's a book called Build a Business and Not a Job. And this is given to me by an industry friend over in Hawaii.
Cool.
And it took me over a year, but I finally got around to reading it. And it's a very good book, very quick read, very similar vein of E-Myth. They have different categorizations. So Michael Gerber talks about technician, manager, entrepreneur. This book by David Finkel and Stephanie Harkness is a little bit different. They talk about level 1, level 2, level 3 businesses and where you are in that process. It was very good. And what I always tell people when I read the E-Myth, and I've given that as gifts to people, is get a yellow highlighter and a red pen when you go through a book like this, because you will have epiphanies and you want to highlight those, come back to, and then write in the margins why that passage was an epiphany.
I like it.
If I don't do that, I'm going to read through it, but a month or two later, if I haven't actually implemented it, it's kind of in one ear and out the other.
Do you find yourself going back after you read a book to read through those notes months later? Or because I'm saying that because this is one of my bookshelves here. I've got 4 books on my nightstand at home. I've got a bookshelf over there. I mean, I've got books everywhere, and my process is kind of similar. Let me see if I can grab a book that. One second. as the carrots fall off the shelf. Anyway, so this is a book that looks like I did not book year or dog year. Because what I'll do oftentimes is if I find a book I like, I'll buy 3 copies and I give 3 copies to people and whatever.
Okay.
But this one is one of the copies that I bought that I did not read, and I'll dog ear stuff. And kind of my process is like, if I found this passage right there that I like, I'll specifically, my books look like crap when I'm done with them, but I'll specifically like dog ear and have the ear, the point of the ear pointing toward that sentence. And it's amazing for me, but the thing is, I never find myself going back to read them. And like, I've almost fantasized about it, going, shoot, I'm going to take a month off and just read my dog-eared pages one of these days, because it'll be like reliving all these over and over again. What do you reabsorb that stuff, or is just making that note enough for you to absorb it?
I kind of think I'm somewhere in the middle there. I don't do it. I do it every now and then, but not nearly as often as I should be. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of a big Evernote user. So I created OneNote in Evernote just for books that I've read and like the real epiphanies there. And I'll go back, and if I get really encouraged by some of the epiphanies I had in a book, then I'll actually go grab it off the shelf and sit down for half an hour and see what is it that really wowed me 6 months ago, but I've totally forgotten about since. I don't do it as often as I should. So, do as I say, not as I do. Be better than I am.
Same here, man. Same
here. And I like to read. I like to read beyond business stuff too. So the other book I have on my shelf is How to Build a Universe. I'm kind of a science and astronomy junkie.
I like
so
that.
We're members of the Science Center in Balboa Park, and so this will be another one I'll be reading, which have nothing to do with business unless my business becomes my universe in some sense, which some days it feels like it is.
Exactly. I love it, man. Well, thanks for hopping on with me on this call and helping me toy with this format a little bit and sharing some of the things that you know with some of our members. And whether you're an advanced investor watching this, I know there's some nuggets you can pull out of there and help streamline your thought process in business and make it better. Newer investor, anywhere in between, go and implement something. And like Michael said, 5x your marketing that you're currently doing. And if you want better results, you've got to put more effort, more investment into it. And then also speed of implementation. After this call, test yourself in the next 24 hours on implementing something insanely fast that you have been putting off for the past 2 months. I can guarantee you every single person on this call has something like that they've been putting off for the right time to implement. Do that today and test the speed of implementation to see how that changes your life, changes your business. And then, of course, last, do not be desperate. Don't do desperate deals, because closing that deal that you think you need to close just for that quick win could actually do the opposite for you and set you down the wrong path. So, Michael, thank you big time for hopping on with me. And we're definitely going to make it more than a once a year, once every 3 year kind of get together thing. Because I head down to San Diego a lot more, and I'd love to have you up here one of these days. So thank you for coming on. Man. And how can people find you if they want to connect with you? I know you're a coach at Fortune Builders.
Right.
But if they want to do a deal with you down in San Diego or Hawaii, how do they connect with you?
If they want to learn more about Fortune Builders, they could go to masterycoachingmichael.com. For Hawaii, these are Carrot sites, of course, Oahu Home Buyers.com. San Diego is mercuryhomebuyers.com. Or just find me on Facebook, Michael Borger. I kind of look just like what you're seeing on the screen, unless I put a photo of my daughter there instead. Twitter.com/Michael Borger. I'm the typical. I'm pretty easy to find.
Awesome, man. I love it. Well, thanks for coming on, everyone. Subscribe. So this is new to me. Subscribe to this on iTunes and subscribe to this on YouTube and share it on your blog. I mean, if there's other people that you think will enjoy this kind of content, please share it and help us spread the message for really empowering entrepreneurs to go out there and do amazing things. So thank you, Michael. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.